All right, Shaggy. So we got good news and bad news, and isn't that the way that this season has gone so far for the Colorado Avalanche? The good news, the Avs are one win away from locking up the division. The bad news, Gabe Landeskog will have no part of the defending of the Stanley Cup in the postseason. He's on the shelf. A lot to get to on this episode of Locked On Avalanche coming at you right now.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
So Matt Caddy, make a jump. Welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for tuning in and making it your first listen of the day. It's always appreciated. Make sure to follow us on our social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram. Questions, comments, concerns, and opinions, lockedonavalanche@gmail.com. And follow us over on our YouTube channel, over on YouTube. Subscribe, get notified when a new show goes live, and you can see we are in our crisscross gear today, pouring one out for Mr. Gabe Landeskog for this season. So we'll get to the Avs and the Jets next segment, but we're going to start today, Kyle, with the news that came out a little bit before the game actually started, and that is Gabe Landeskog will not be taking part in the playoffs in any capacity. They're pretty much just putting a pin in it, and this was something as it was going on to kind of just go back to the beginning. When it was first announced that he had the surgery on his knee, that it was going to be a 12-week process, which would bring us to beginning mid-January. And then that got pushed back into February. And then that got pushed back into March. And then that got pushed back into the playoffs. But we had no idea if it was going to be game one, round one, or round two. It was just playoffs. And now we know that it is not going to be at all. They had a press conference, and they announced it beforehand, and then they had a press conference that he's done for the year. I'm a little bit surprised. I mean, I shouldn't say I'm surprised. As it was going on, I guess it was always in the back of my mind that this could be a reality because it just keeps getting pushed back. But if you were to tell me at the beginning of the season when they announced 12 weeks, and you were to say, it's not going to be 12 weeks, it's going to be the whole year, I would have said, no, that's a big discrepancy between 12 weeks and the entire season. But here we are.
It was one of those situations that with the announcement and the supplemental press conference, they addressed a lot, and still you have 100,000 questions when it comes to this. And when they initially said 12 weeks at the beginning of the season, I remember we were talking like, where's the footage? Like, where I know there was that one video that we were analyzing, like the Bigfoot tape, and it just, you saw him skate with the cup, and then you saw him in the Bigfoot video, and then it was just a lot of quiet. You saw everybody come up and come down, and then the announcement today where Gabe Landeskog talked about what happened, this happening back in the bubble, and really tweaked it in the playoffs, and says, hey, I wouldn't take it back, doesn't regret it. And then kind of painting a weird, dark, fluid timeline for the future, which it also hit me weird on the same day that Jonathan Toews is not coming back as a Blackhawk. Like,
yeah,
it's
what's going on in the twilight zone of the NHL right now, right?
Yeah, that announcement came out of nowhere too. So like when that announcement hit, I was like, wow, that's a new era for Chicago. And then we get hit with the same type of uncertainty for the future of our captaincy.
Yeah, he did give some clarification, and he admitted, he's like, we've purposely been quiet about it. Like you're getting updates in terms of timeline and time frame, but we're not giving updates on when this originated. And he was asked, was this in the bubble? And he confirmed that. So he's been dealing with this for a few years now. And they asked, do you have any regret? And I think when you win the Stanley Cup, there's no regret.
Yeah, no regrets.
No, even if you didn't win the Stanley Cup, you probably would still hear him say, no, there's no regrets. I'm going to go out there for my team. I'm the captain of this team. But you got to the pinnacle, and so you're not really going to have any regrets. Again, they did ask him, I guess, more time frame stuff, and someone even said, does this go into next year? Or I think the way they asked the question is pretty much, do you feel like this could be career ending? And he very quickly said, no, I don't think that. But he also said, it doesn't necessarily, I'm just going to be back up to 100% when game 1 of next season starts. So I think a lot of people like that thought of like someone who's injured for a full season, just somehow miraculously during the off season just kicks it into high gear with how they heal. Yeah. And then for the next season, they're ready to go.
You didn't put in a back to tank.
Yeah. You didn't really get that impression with this. It's kind of just a coin flip right now. I kind of feel like if he will be ready for the start of next season. Let's obviously hope for the best, but for whatever reason, this thing has, imagine that though, man.
Yeah.
Imagine if he's not. This thing has gone from 12 weeks to a calendar year, not an NHL season, a calendar year where he will be out. Something isn't right there. And is there concern? Yeah. Is it long-term concern for me? I'm not there yet. I'm not there to be like, oh, his career is on the line. We might be talking retirement. Because you will get some form of Gabe Landeskog back. And then we'll see. This could be like a Terrell Davis thing, man.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like Terrell Davis, once he had that knee injury, he tried to come back, played here, played there. Then he'd be injured again. It would aggravate him. And then there just got to be a time where he was like, I can't do it anymore. Again, I don't want to go right there with Gabe Landeskog today, but that's in the back of my mind.
Yeah, and you hit on 2 points right there that are really strong. Like, one, what if this is the end of Gabe Landeskog? That picture of him holding the cup with a pyro behind him will probably be one of the most epic pictures in Avalanche history. Like, the significance of it now in hindsight, because it's 2020. And addressing the subject of a knee. As somebody who also has bad knees, I come from Alabama with a banjo on my knee. And, there's only so many times you go under the knife and then you start losing the integrity of what's going on in your knee. Like, this will be what, number 3 or 4?
I don't know how many just for this
Yes.
thing. I know it's at least 2. So if he has another one, it might be the 3rd, or if there's another one that I'm thinking not. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's either 3 or 4, I think.
It's you're repairing it to make it functional and not hurt anymore, but you're also losing a lot of that structural integrity. And it's not like it's a brand new knee. So you also have to weigh that in mind with every time he goes under the knife, what percentage of Gabe Landeskog, when he returns to the ice, are we going to be getting? Is this going to be a shell of Gabe Landeskog? Is he going to be about that same production level? Welcome to another offseason of questions.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I will go on the side of, he's a warrior, right? Yeah. So until he goes out there and says that he can't do it, or he re-aggravates it for some reason or something like that, like, I don't want to jump to worst case scenario right now. He's out a season. It's happened to many athletes. And I don't have stats like this in front of me, but how many come back after a full year out and then are kind of pick back up where they left off eventually? I don't know. That's exactly who I'm thinking of, man. And that's another one. I threw out the Terrell Davis one, but that is another one in Peter Forsberg.
Yeah. Peter Forsberg, he kind of set the example on that. I mean, you could say Mario Lemieux.
Yeah. Yeah, you could.
But we're also talking like maybe a handful, and there's been hundreds of thousands of players in the league. So you got to the numbers. But again, it's one of those that it's going to be talked about all offseason. but it confirms like this is your crew when you're handling games against the Jets and the playoffs and game 82. Like, this is your crew. The Landy story is on pause for right now.
And I know there's a lot of talk out there right now too of, this kind of going retroactive and saying like, oh, this is a failed trade deadline for the Avalanche. You could have got something to replace Gabe Landeskog. I don't think it changes much for what the Avalanche. I kind of feel like the Avalanche knew like there's a very good chance he's not going to play until the postseason, right? At that stage during the trade deadline season. So I don't feel like they were really going to do anything different, because to the Avalanche, they didn't want to give up prospects. They didn't want to give up more prospects. They didn't want to give up more picks. Gabe Landeskog has nothing to do with that. So I know there's some people thinking like, oh, it's wasted LTIR. I'm not feeling that way. No. I'm not. I think they had a plan. If a deal came along that was right for them, they were going to take it, and nothing did. I think they put all their eggs into basket last year, and it worked for them. Again, I go back to it. I don't want to get too far off track here, but you can't keep doing that year after year after year, just continuing to give up picks and prospects over and over and over again. And I don't think they wanted to do it this year. Gabe Landeskog had nothing to do with that.
Nope.
So, all right. We'll definitely be talking a lot about him in the off season. So, put a pin in that, and we'll circle back to him multiple times, I am sure. All right, let's hear from eBay Motors, and then we'll get to this game. This game that I thought was going to be a blowout was anything but. All right, so there you go. eBay Motors for a championship team. It's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to my garage, and literally, just throw your ride in my garage. Technically, I'll take.
You can throw it in mine too.
Yeah, and look for the green check to know that the part will fit, or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. So get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride, Bronco Nation. Eligible items only, and exclusions apply.
I'm never going to get.
Don't shake your head. My cousin Vinny, don't shake your head. I'm not finished yet. Don't shake your head. All right. So Avs win this one against the Winnipeg Jets, much tighter than we anticipated. I knew the Jets were going to kind of take some guys out of the lineup or rest some guys. I didn't expect as many as they did.
And I didn't expect them to take members of the Avalanche out either.
Don't talk about that. 7 guys they rested, including Connor Hellebuck, so they had their backup in. And the Avs, I thought they played fine.
Yeah.
And when you see that many guys not playing for a team, it's essentially 3 lines that's not playing for your team. You're expecting. And with the Avalanche having a lot to play for, right?
Yep.
The division is still on the line. St. Louis did win. That game was going along the same time as the Avs game was. So you saw that eventually the St. Louis-Dallas game, Dallas wins that 1-0. So now the Avs have to finish the season off in Nashville to make up for the water main game. And if they win that, division is theirs. So for this game, though, it was a little bit of a touch and go for a while.
Chris Michaeli, are you telling me the Colorado Avalanche played down to their competition? How dare you?
I hate to say that, but
that never happens. Never happens for the Colorado Avalanche, and that's exactly what happened in this instance. And yes, the stars for the Jets some pun intended, stars, were resting, but you had a lot of guys wanting to, make a name for themselves against the
Sure.
defending Stanley Cup champion. And that's what you
Definitely.
ran into. And they turned Vladislav Nemestikov into just a completely different individual, a goon. When he was a member of the Avalanche, he was not that way. Winnipeg has put him through, like, you remember when Captain America said, "Hail Hydra"? That's what we saw on Nemestikov. But the Avalanche fought back. You got to see Mulligan be a Mulligan, and then him promptly taken out, and then Cogliano. And Georgiev looked good, but this was one of those that you really didn't want to play down. Maybe they were trying to save some of that for when they go to Smashville, but this almost was a bad game.
Yeah, I mean, and the Avs were down. They were down after a shorthanded goal that they gave up. And when that happened, you're just like, man, you hate doing this. But when that happened, I was like, it happened very early. They run a power play, obviously, and it happened very early in the power play. I think within the first 15 seconds of that power play, Winnipeg scores a shorthanded goal. And I was like, you better score on what's left of this power play. Like, no messing around. Like, you better score on this to equalize this game right here and now. Don't let this thing keep going with a 1-goal lead for the Jets and just, building up that confidence again for like these young guys and guys that didn't get a lot of time this year, proving something. And luckily for the Avalanche, they did, which, by the way, that goal by Mikko Rantanen on that power play, that is like this got to be like what it feels like to dunk a basketball. The pass from Evan Rodriguez was about it was like a Roger Clemens fastball, cross ice, and like it was nothing. Mikko Rantanen one-times it into the net. I mean, you could throw that pass to me 100 times out on the rink, and I would whiff on it 100 times. That is the hand-eye coordination on that is incredible.
And and being like in school for like broadcasting and stuff, and like thinking of like everything in clip form right now, all I keep thinking of, that's Mikko's 55th goal, most in franchise history. Like you're going to be seeing that clip for the end of time. What a beautiful, like if it was just a goofy little dribbler like Lars Eller tried to put in that penalty shot goal. This one had flair. This had attitude. This had, okay, this is enough of this. Let's put this game away.
Oh, it was great.
And I can't wait to watch it for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I mean, that's you're right. You're right. I didn't put those two things together. That that was the number 55 for him, and it's oh so pretty the way that it looked. So you're right. That's going to be in his highlight reel for forever. Yeah. So you had moments of, man, that they just don't, they just look off. They don't look, but then there were moments of, okay, like this is, maybe they're snapping out of it. They found their legs. And I think Nathan McKinnon, for some reason, had one of his struggling games. Not that he played poorly, but for whatever reason, like the Jets just bottled him up. I don't think he had a shot on goal until the third period. Let me see how many he had total.
One.
That was it. That was it. Like, and he was battling. He wasn't playing poorly, but the Jets had his number.
And speaking of playing poorly, real quick, we were talking, I believe it was yesterday, about Mulligan or Newhook for the roster. If Mulligan's healthy, he needs to be on the roster because Newhook is spiraling.
You know what? Like Newhook, he made a very nice move. That if that goal went in, that was highlight reel. If that goal went in, but he's not. He's what's his? Let me see what he had. Wow, he had 13 minutes of ice time. But
Cogliano had 1 minute and 11
seconds. Exactly. And we'll get to that in a second. But I think kind of what we've been saying the past couple days is I think you might have to swap those guys in and out on your playoff roster, and you go with Malgin to start. And if the playoffs for some reason are too much for him, maybe you bring in Newhook. But let's go back to Andrew Cogliano, because for the second game in a row, he kind of toe picks and goes diving into the boards. The one the other day didn't look as bad as this one.
Yeah.
And oddly enough, I just brought up the comments from yesterday's episode on YouTube, and a conversation with goes by the next great number 8 is his username. And he mentioned it, and I'll just read what he said. He said, when Cogliano went out for a bit the other night, I sort of chuckled because I was about 99% certain he'd be back out there. Anyone else, I'd have been terrified. But that man is made out of steel. And I responded to him like, yeah, you're right. But I also hate that I feel that way. I hate that I think that way with him when he gets injured, or you think that he gets injured. It'd be like, oh, that looked bad. Oh, that's Andrew Cogliano. He'll be fine. And I said in the comments, I'm like, it just takes one freakish accident to where you're not thinking that way. And
It's
lo
all
and
your
behold,
fault. It's all your fault.
what happens? He goes into the boards hard.
Yeah.
And he did not come back. Like you said, he had a minute
11.
So that's something that we're gonna have to watch, because if he is out as well, there's your roster problem. You're playing Malgin and Newhook.
And the way he was toe picking both games, it's like he's got figure skates on. Like, come on, man.
A lot of guys were doing it last night. Like, Eric Johnson did it. And it was always in it, like if you're watching on the television, the right side of the ice, in the right corner, like the lower corner, I guess you can say. It's something was going on over there that maybe they just did a bad surface job for the night or something. But and oddly enough, the Andrew Cogliano thing happened on the other side of the ice. I don't know, but he is going to be. It's one of those things where you're hurting the next day. You're feeling that the next day.
Yeah, if you're going for X-rays, like that speaks.
Did they
to
say he did? I didn't hear. They did. Okay. Yeah, not good. So we'll have to wait on that. All right. Yeah, you mentioned the Nemetsnikov and Lars Eller getting a penalty shot out of that. And right off the bat, I'm thinking, like, I really wish they would change the rule for this. I don't like that. Number one, I feel like you should be able to pick who does your penalty shot.
Yeah.
I don't think it should just have to be the guy that the penalty was committed on.
It's like fouling Shaq in NBA because he can't hit free throws.
Yeah, and that's I could see where you're going with that, but I don't know. And if someone's out there like, no, you can't do that, I'm not going to argue it that much. Like, I get it, fine. But I do think if the goalie for the other team stops the penalty shot, they should then go on a power play.
Yep.
Because there's no fault. Like, it's like nothing ever happened. There's no penalty for that team now. And this is something that I've been throwing around for a while, and it doesn't seem like the league is really interested in it at all. But I don't know. I just feel like they get off scot-free.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that aspect of the penalty shot. Like, yes, it's fun, it's exciting, but if it's unsuccessful, you should award them the power play.
Yeah. Or you do this. You give the team the choice. Do you want to take the penalty shot, or do you want the power play? And I think there's some strategy that comes into play then, because if you're winning, take 2 minutes off the clock, right? if you're losing, or if, say, it's Nathan McKinnon that would be taking the penalty shot, not because you're choosing, because he's the one that the penalty was infracted on, then you may be more inclined to, like, hey, I'll take my chance with McKinnon, get a goal back as quick as possible. And now we're, maybe only down another goal, or whatever the case may be.
The thing is, I really think that it's just a no-brainer to award just the power play, because 9 times out of 10, if you're getting awarded a penalty shot in game, it's over an egregious, like clear path. Like you can't walk away from something egregious like with the state of everything going on in the game. It's a good thing that Eller wasn't hurt as well, because that would have been a problem. And to walk away with Erod going to take a penalty shot and then it be unsuccessful, now you didn't get a goal and now you have an injured player.
Right.
Like, I think it should be step it up because of the egregious level of the penalty that is being awarded.
Totally agree. Like, so, Nemetsnikov just completely obliterates Eller. And because he didn't score on the penalty shot, nothing happens.
Yeah.
I just don't like it. I don't like it. Stats for this game. Let's see here. We got the Avs outshot the Jets 25-20. They won the faceoff dot, and that was noticeable, man.
Yes.
They were winning faceoffs left and right, 56% to 44%. Avs 1 for 3 on the power play. Jets 0 for 3. Malgin, Rodriguez, and Lehkonen in his game back gets the empty netter for the 3 goals for the Avs. And Rodriguez with a goal and an assist on the day. Eller with 2 assists on the day. Lehkonen 1 and 1. Malgin with the goal. Rantanen with the goal we were talking about. Byram with an assist. Thought he played fantastic. Taves and Hunt with assists as well. So kind of spread out scoring here. You didn't have McKinnon with nothing, but you did have Rantanen get that 1 goal. Newhook with an assist. I left him out. So kind of some depth there for the Avs, where you really thought this was going to be a top heavy game, that the studs were just going to take over, and it didn't happen. It was kind of the opposite. And
JT looking good with the eye test. Like, he's revving up. Like, you could feel playoff JT Compher is on the way.
Let's hope. Well, I mean, you would have to think it is because of the season that he's had. So it's not like he needs to step up his game. He just needs to keep playing the way that he's been playing all season long. So we shall see, sir. Right around the corner, and we got 1 more game left, and it's either division or second place. So we'll find out. Last thing to get to is our sound check, and Kyle and I pick 1 song each that we feel best summarizes the most recent game. These songs go up on a playlist over on Spotify. Just search LOA Soundcheck. This is volume number 2. So what do you have for the Avalanche and the Jets?
I'm going with one of my all-time guilty pleasure bands. I'll just throw them on, and it is a brain wipe. I'm in a zone. Going Fear Factory here, off the Mechanize album, Power Shifter.
Okay.
And it works on different levels.
Okay.
Game 82, you're about to take the Central without your captain. There's a power shift as well. We've done this whole season. You are on the verge of winning the Central without the captain. There's a power shift this season.
Okay.
Like, it works, and you had to honestly turn the power on to win that game. Like, you had to wake up and say, okay, let's take this game back and go.
Yeah.
So it's a multi-layer song. The song's incredible. Wait till you hear it on the playlist. It is a great song. Okay. And if you've never listened to Fear Factory, listen to the rest of their catalog. Great stuff.
I have listened to some of them. Not like deep dives or anything like that. So I will absolutely give this one a listen. But I like how you kind of made it internal for the Avalanche. Like, it's not a power shift in power of like the league going to the Avalanche. It's because Landeskog is out and stuff like that. There's kind of like a internal power shift, which made me think. Answer this question for me. Do you think just for the playoffs,
don't even
the
say
Avalanche name a captain?
Nope. Absolutely.
You don't think so?
No.
Okay.
We have a captain.
I know that, but the captain is not going to be there.
Hasn't
and
been.
When that,
hasn't been, and we're going to. We're on the verge of capturing the C Central Division without our C captain. So
Yeah, and I think they didn't do, like, if they had known from the beginning of the season that he was out all season long, maybe they do it. Maybe they would do it then. But because it just kept, prolonging it, I don't think there's any need to do it because he's always possibly going to come back, and you can just switch it back to him if he ever did come back. But I'm not going to sit here and think that they will do it. I don't think they will.
I think
I don't
if
think there's no
if
need
they
for
have
it.
to, slap it on EJ.
That would be cool. That would be cool. Yeah. But I don't think they will, but I just don't think there's a need for it. I mean, that's what the alternates are there for, but just something to chew on. Thought I'd throw it out there. Just thought of it. So I think the consensus would be no.
How dare you try and shift the power?
For me, I am going to focus on the next game, and that's obviously the big one to win the Central. And so I'm going with the great band Amaranth, and the song is 82nd All the Way, because that's exactly what the Avalanche have right now. Game 82 for all the marbles in the division. And I know there's still people out there that is like, oh, it's not important. I don't care who we play in the playoffs in the first round. And to some extent, I get that thinking. But they threw up a graphic on Altitude during the game and how many years that the Avalanche have won the division. And that's kind of what you're playing for. You're playing for like the legacy of the franchise. And when people look at, top franchises of all time and stuff like that, they look at stuff like that. How many times they've won the division. And I understand how people are saying like, it don't matter who they play in the first round. I'll take the Av against anybody. Yeah, I'm with you on that too. But I also care about, the history of the Avalanche, and that is part of the history. How many times, you've won the Stanley Cup, how many times you won the President's Trophy, how many times you've won the division is in that mix too. So for that reason, you go for it. That's why you go for it.
Yeah, I don't care who the Avalanche play in the first round, but I just do not want to see Seattle. That team is scarier than a lot of people think. They have 100 points.
They do, yeah.
Like
some people who say let's take them on unproven. Let's do it.
I get that, but out of the West, they scare me.
Yeah, well, so do the Kings. So anything, it's going to be a good series, but you're pretty confident if you're the Avs. You have to be. I think you got to be. Yeah. So, all right, that's going to wrap it up for today and for this week. So we will be back on Monday. We will be discussing that Avs game against the Predators and if they came out on top and on top of the division. So that's going to be it for today, everybody. Thank you for tuning in and making it your first listen of the day. That's always appreciated. He's Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli. This is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. Enjoy the weekend. We'll see you guys Monday.